You are returned to the C unattend deploy directory and find that the unattend.txt file has been placed in it. And you find that the Windows Setup Manager has also created an unattend.bat file. This file configures a command line for you to simplify the unattended installation command line syntax. Note that if you specify multiple computer names in the Computer Names section of the Windows Setup Manager, a uniqueness database file, which has the same name as the answer file, with the UDB extension, will be created in the C unattend deploy directory. This UDB file is a text file that contains the values that override the ones stored in the answer file during an installation. If the /UDF parameter is specified with setup without any UDB file name, the setup program prompts the user to insert a floppy disk that contains the UDB file $unique$.udb. To specify a UDB file to be used, you use this syntax. There are two more things you need to do if you want to perform an unattended installation of Windows XP from the CD. You need to rename the answer file to winnt.cif and then copy it to a floppy disk. You insert the disk into the computer's floppy drive before launching the Windows XP setup program for the unattended installation. In the i386 folder of the Windows XP CD-ROM, there are two executable programs that will initiate the installation of Windows XP. These two programs are winnt.exe, winnt32.exe. The winnt.exe setup program can only be executed under 16-bit operating systems, such as MS-DOS or Windows 3.1. The winnt.exe program accepts different command line switches. Running winnt.exe /? at the command prompt will list the available options. The winnt32.exe setup program can only be executed under 32-bit operating systems, such as Windows 95, 98, ME, NT 4.0, or 2000 Professional. The winnt32.exe program accepts different command line switches. Running winnt32.exe /? at the command prompt will list the available options. This is the syntax for the 16-bit winnt.exe program. The source parameter specifies the location of the Windows XP Professional installation files. The tdrive parameter informs the setup program to install Windows XP Professional on the specified drive. You use the u:"answer file parameter to indicate an unattended installation and to provide the name and location of the answer file. And the UDF file parameter specifies the name and location of the UDF file that will be used for the installations. This is the syntax for the 32-bit winnt32.exe program. The source parameter specifies the location of the Windows XP Professional installation files, and the temp drive parameter directs setup to place temporary files on the specified drive. The unattend num answer file parameter specifies an unattended installation along with the name and location of the answer file. The num parameter signifies the number of seconds to wait before restarting the computer during the setup process. The UDF file parameter specifies the name and location of the UDF file. Suppose you want to use winnt32.exe to launch the unattended installation of Windows XP on NYWS 314 from the installation files on the i386 folder. The unattend file is called unattend.txt, and the default UDB file is unattend.udb. To do this, you would type this command. Which files are created by the Windows Setup Manager for use in an unattended installation of Windows XP? Riz enables you to install Windows XP and Windows 2000 Professional over a company network through a central Riz server. Network clients then connect to the Riz server and install Windows XP using settings that are predefined by the system's administrator. This reduces the total cost of ownership, TCO, because the network clients use a central location from which to install Windows XP. A major advantage of RIS is that the hardware configuration on the network clients do not have to match exactly. The Windows Automatic Hardware Detection features help to resolve any differences when the RIS image is applied to the client computers. A user presses the F12 button during the boot process to install Windows XP using RIS. This forces a boot from the network, and the computer downloads the installation files from the RIS server. In a situation where a computer's network card is not PXE compliant, you can boot from a floppy disk to connect to the RIS server. 3 steps are used to ensure RIS works properly: configuring workstation computers, configuring network services, creating Windows XP RIS images. Workstation computers can connect to a RIS server using a specialized network adapter that contains an onboard PXE ROM chip. On booting, this adapter attempts to ascertain a unique IP address from the Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol DHCP server. Once the address has been obtained, the client is required to press F12 to locate the RIS server. If the workstation does not have a PXE-compliant network adapter, a RIS boot disk can be created using the rbfg.exe utility. RIS relies upon several different network features and services to function properly. So, before you install and configure RIS, you need to ensure that the DHCP server on the network correctly assigns TCP/IP configuration information to clients. You need to check that the domain name system DNS used for resolving TCP/IP addresses to host names works properly, and that Active Directory hosts the computer accounts used by RIS to deploy Windows XP. A client locates the RIS server by querying DNS to find Active Directory, and Active Directory tells the client where to locate RIS. You will not require a Windows Internet Naming Service (WINS) server for this purpose. You need to configure at least one RIS server and configure a separate partition, which cannot be a boot or system partition, of at least 2 GB for the RIS image. RIS stores the images using Single Instance Storage (SIS). SIS only stores 1 copy of each file, which saves on disk space. You can create and use an unattended answer file, remboot.sys, to automate the RIS installation. To create the first image of Windows XP for an attended, not unattended installation, you use the Remote Installation Services Setup Wizard. RIS provides the Remote Installation Preparation tool, riprep.exe, which is similar to third-party disk imaging applications, to create images of the operating system and installed applications. The riprep.exe utility can create images of the C drive only, and when you apply a RIS image to a computer, any existing partitions or volumes are deleted. The hard disk of the workstation computer will be repartitioned as a single disk formatted with the NTFS file system.